They said the desert kept secrets better than any vault in America. For decades, that was true. On a blistering morning in July 1945, somewhere in the empty vastness near Alamogordo, New Mexico, a group of men stood waiting, not for sunrise, but for something far more unnatural. Among them was a quiet, intense physicist named J. Robert Oppenheimer, who had spent years chasing an idea that once belonged only to theory, harnessing the energy inside an atom. At exactly 5:29 a.m., the desert ignited. The explosion, later known as the Trinity Test, was brighter than anything human eyes had ever witnessed. Some said it felt like the end of the world. Others said it felt like the beginning of one. But no one there fully understood what they had just unleashed. Years earlier, the story didn't begin in the desert, it began in fear. In 1939, Europe was already trembling under the rise of Adolf Hitler. Scientists fleeing Nazi persecution carried with them a terrifying possibility, that Germany might be close to building an atomic bomb. Among those alarmed was Albert Einstein, who, along with physicist Leo Szilard, signed a letter to President Franklin D. Roosevelt. The message was clear: if the United States did not act, the Nazis might build a weapon capable of destroying entire cities in seconds. Roosevelt responded with urgency. What followed would become one of the most secretive and ambitious scientific projects in history, the Manhattan Project. The project spread across hidden locations: Oak Ridge, Tennessee, Hanford, Washington, and most importantly, Los Alamos, New Mexico. It was there that Oppenheimer gathered some of the brightest minds of the century, Richard Feynman, Enrico Fermi, and Niels Bohr, among others. They weren't just building a weapon, they were rewriting the laws of war. Life in Los Alamos was strange. Families lived in isolation, surrounded by barbed wire and secrecy. Mail was censored. Conversations were guarded. Even spouses often didn't know what their partners were working on. Yet despite the secrecy, there was a sense of urgency that united everyone. They knew the stakes. Or at least, they thought they did. By 1945, Germany had fallen. Hitler was dead. The war in Europe was over. But the project didn't stop. Instead, it accelerated. Now, the focus shifted to Japan. President Harry S. Truman, who had taken office after Roosevelt's death, faced a brutal reality. The war in the Pacific was dragging on, and a full-scale invasion of Japan, planned as Operation Downfall, was expected to cost hundreds of thousands of American lives, and potentially millions of Japanese lives. The bomb, many argued, could end the war instantly. But at what cost? On August 6, 1945, the answer came. A B-29 bomber named Enola Gay flew over the Japanese city of Hiroshima. At 8:15 a.m., it dropped a single bomb, code-named Little Boy. Within seconds, the city was obliterated. Tens of thousands died instantly. Buildings vanished. Shadows burned into walls. Survivors wandered through a landscape that looked less like Earth and more like something from a nightmare. 3 days later, on August 9, another bomb, Fat Man, was dropped on Nagasaki. Japan surrendered shortly after. World War II was over. In America, celebrations erupted. Crowds filled the streets of New York and Chicago. Soldiers came home. Families reunited. The war that had consumed the world for 6 years had finally ended. But beneath the celebration, something darker lingered. Some scientists who had worked on the bomb began to question what they had done. Oppenheimer himself famously recalled a line from the Bhagavad Gita, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." He wasn't being poetic. He was being literal. The years that followed didn't bring peace, they brought escalation. The Soviet Union, once an ally, quickly became a rival. By 1949, they had successfully tested their own atomic bomb. The Cold War had begun. And with it came an arms race unlike anything in human history. Weapons grew more powerful. Hydrogen bombs, far more destructive than those used in Japan, were developed. Missiles capable of crossing continents in minutes became reality. At one point, the world stood on the brink of nuclear war during the Cuban Missile Crisis. For 13 days, humanity held its breath as the United States and the Soviet Union came dangerously close to launching nuclear strikes. One wrong decision could have ended civilization. It didn't happen, but it came close. Closer than most people realize. Back in Los Alamos, the place where it all began, the legacy of the Manhattan Project remained complicated. On one hand, it was a triumph of science, proof that human ingenuity could achieve the impossible. On the other, it was a reminder of how that ingenuity could be used. The desert still holds echoes of that first explosion. Glass fused from sand, called trinitite, still lies scattered in places. Instruments that once measured the unimaginable now sit in museums. And the questions remain. Was it necessary? Could it have been avoided? Did it save more lives than it took? Historians still debate. Survivors still remember. And the world still lives under the shadow of that moment. What makes this story truly astonishing isn't just the science, or the war, or even the explosion itself. It's how quickly everything changed. In less than a decade, humanity went from splitting atoms in laboratories to destroying cities with them. From theory to apocalypse. From possibility to reality. And once that line was crossed, there was no going back. Today, nuclear weapons still exist. Thousands of them. More powerful than anything used in 1945. They sit in silos, submarines, and bases across the world, silent, unseen, but always present. A constant reminder of what happened in that quiet New Mexico desert. And of what could happen again. Because the truth is, the Trinity Test didn't just end a war. It began an era. An era where humanity gained the power to destroy itself, and had to learn how not to. That may be the most astonishing part of all. We built the ultimate weapon. And somehow, we're still here.